Welcome back to Rise to Liberty podcast. Today I am joined by Adam Maxwell. Real quick before we get going, though, I do just want to drop our sponsor. And just like always, it is Nadu Shave Co. Nadu is absolutely the best razor you could possibly use. So, guys, ladies, if you want a superior razor of, high quality, it's veteran owned, family operated. I actually just used what they had sent me again today, clean up my cheek lines and my neck, and it is without a doubt a superior shave. It's a company that actually cares about their customers, and they are just superior. I don't know what else to say about them. They're just truly great. Plus, they have the balls to sponsor this show, which is always great. So head on over to nadushaveco.com. Use promo code RISE15 at checkout for 15% off, and you will not regret it without a doubt. And that is nadushaveco.com. Promo code RISE15, 15% off. Nadu Shave Co., where tradition beats modernity. So, Adam, how are you doing today?
Doing well, thanks. And yourself?
I'm doing well. Just hanging in there, trying to make things happen over here. Pretty much same as you. So this is part 2 of an absolutely insane story. Just an insane story that you have. Everyone who hasn't watched this, hasn't watched the first part, you can definitely go check that out. So my understanding, and this is just a quick breakdown of the story from my understanding. For anyone who hasn't watched this, correct me where I'm wrong. So you had gotten sick, you had gotten food poisoning. You lived over in England, in the UK, who has socialized healthcare, who has nationalized healthcare. You had gotten sick, you had gotten food poisoning,
and the nanny state.
And the nanny state, a complete authoritarian state. And so you had gotten sick. You had went to private healthcare, which is still an option if you have the money or if you have the funds to do so. And they had prescribed you prednisone, which is a really hardcore steroid. And to get that prednisone, you actually had to go to a state doctor, a state-funded doctor. You had ended up having a conversation with them. For whatever reason, they had ended up targeting you, saying that your ideas of who you were ideas of grandeur and really outlandish. And for whatever reason, that placed a target on your back. And from there, it started a whole domino effect of harassment from the state. From there, they ended up at one point surrounding your house due to the harassment and you rejecting that harassment. And it ended up with you being in a mental health care facility, pretty much against your will, where they denied you your medication, which is tantamount to torture. And that's where we had left off at the last show. So do you feel that that's a fair synopsis of everything?
Certainly. Let me expand on a few of their points. So there is private healthcare in the United Kingdom. Fortunately, my parents had me on private insurance. Very fortunate for that. So I was able to get the care privately I needed when I had fallen sick abroad and come back for the treatment. But you cannot be entirely private, my understanding, in the UK. You have to get your prescriptions fulfilled through the NHS. And if that's not correct, then I was being treated in London. My private doctor, gastroenterologist, said, go fulfill it through the NHS. And then when I moved back up to Manchester, which is where I had my home, as opposed to my family in London, I didn't have a private medical provider up there, so I had to go through the NHS regardless. So when I went to pick it up, the doctor, the general practitioner, says, "What do you do for a living?" And I gave an elevator pitch. As a startup founder, entrepreneur, that was my lifeblood. Lived and breathed pitching, practicing, charisma. There was nothing, maybe outlandish, but it was specifically grandiosity, or the perceived grandiosity of a general practitioner about a pioneering and perhaps revolutionary financial technology startup with the field of finance, wealth management, economics, technology. So, and specifically that I presented with grandiose ideas about setting up a business and approaching highly placed people. Hence his referral to CMHT, which he declined to engage with. So that's the target on my back. And it's not so much it is a domino effect of state harassment, but that was the orchestrated campaign. So when my house was surrounded, it wasn't just due to the harassment and me rejecting that harassment. I went to the police, said, "I'm being harassed, I'm being terrorized, I'm being assaulted at my home. My mother's being attacked, with verbally harassed." She wasn't assaulted yet. And the National Health Service, this was about 4 months of harassment at this point. I spoke to them for a period of 2-3 phone calls in January 2021. And April 2021, they kind of got fed up of me refusing to engage. And what they said was, Adam has a business. Because he has a business and because we've had a red flag, which is to say, because I've presented with a grandiose idea about having my own business, and because it's my own money, they've said that because of the nature of my business, which they have no idea about, and that I have had this red flag, which is complete absurdity, that I am therefore at risk of financial vulnerability. So this is the national healthcare system being told about my business, then saying he has a company, he's potentially dealing with substantial sums of money. He's not at risk to himself or others. We've determined that on the 20th of January 2020. But he is a financial vulnerability because he's dealing with a business, right? Which is anti-capitalist, which is Marxist, which is socialism. And then I've said to them, go away, I'm not going to engage with you. And then they've written down the fact that I have refused to engage with them means that I am at risk of deteriorating in my mental health and my mental state. And that is why they have to do a mental health act, and then couldn't get a warrant. So then they had to fabricate the record to invent a warrant, which is illegitimate. And that was why I was kidnapped. Any questions on that before I?
No, that seems like a thorough recap.
So then when I was taken, first I was taken to the Manchester Royal Infirmary, the closest hospital, taken to the psychiatric ward, locked in between 1, 2, 3 locked doors, handcuffed, nearly pepper sprayed, guarded with 4 police officers and this Einsatzgruppen, this team of the early intervention service. And they get me here and they say, "Right, we've got you here now. Tell us about your business." I say, "I'm not telling you a thing. Tell us about your business." No. So then yeah, I have an inflammatory bowel disease, which is debilitating and agonizing when not medicated. And I said, I want a lawyer, and you need to give me my medicine. And they said, you don't have the right to a lawyer. You've been detained under the Health Act, which you do have. You always have a right to a lawyer. You always have a right to legal representation. And eventually they said, if you want your medicine, you're going to have to engage in our assessment. So I thought, all right, here I am. You've got me. You did say you got me good. It's true. So I said, all right, I'll engage with your assessment. I'll tell you about the nature of my business. Nothing, no details. I'll tell you about my business to verify my identity, that I'm my reality, and you can get lost. And I'm reported as saying, I will pass with flying colors. Although I passed with flying colors, although they said I was very impressive and expert, and there may well be a basis of truth to my story, they refused to believe it. Now, you talk about a mental health facility. First off, this is entirely against my will, right? When your house is surrounded by 10 people, you're chased, you're handcuffed, thrown in the back of a van, taken to imprisonment. Your family isn't told. There's no official acknowledgement of the detainment. They haven't presented you a warrant. There's been no court. It's not pretty much against my will. It was against my will. And finally, I have an issue with the word tantamount to torture. Nothing with you. Tantamount it means kind of like, or it's these are the characteristics that kind of make it this. It wasn't tantamount to torture. It was torture. So that's the medication. That's the torture. I passed their assessment. Most critically, this is a troop of purported healthcare workers who have tried to interrogate me on my business, then used coercion, intimidation, and torture to try and extract that intelligence from me, to which I refused. And importantly, and this is in their notes, my cognition was not assessed. There were no perceptual abnormalities, nothing which one would expect from a mental health act, from anything within their mandate. It was entirely ideological and about my business. Nothing about my health, physical health, my mental health, only about attacking me, destroying me, not just undermining, but invalidating my reality, my business, my liberty, my life, my property. And then I was taken to a psychiatric hospital, where I was, told that I'm at risk of leaving because I refused to, because they said I was so condescending and verbally abusive, but not physically. So I was, under lock and key for almost 24. I mean, in that facility, overall, the detention was about 36 hours, although I was sentenced to 2 weeks imprisonment. I was released that next day, after I got there at 11, 12 o'clock at night, and I was released by 5 p.m. because there were no grounds to justify my illegal and unjust imprisonment. My business was real. Nothing I said was outlandish. My story was consistent, made sense because it was real. And in the words of the psychiatrist who had to sit there and evaluate me, this was an evil persecution, ridiculous and sick.
I would definitely have to agree. It's amazing to me just the lengths that they went to for seemingly personal reasons, their personal reasons. It I have a hard time articulating just exactly how incredibly just so unethical and immoral this was or is against somebody entirely innocent. And it's just incredible to me because I hear so many people with the position that tyranny doesn't exist. It could never happen these days. That that would be impossible. That would never happen. And yet here we are. Granted, most of my audience is in the United States, and we've got our own problems here. But to think that something like this couldn't or doesn't happen here is just absurd. It's happening over there, and I know it's happened here to maybe not the exact situation, but there have been several instances of similar situations. And it's just amazing to me that people would deny the fact that this could happen.
And that's not just an abstract, like, wow, that's unbelievable, or there's disbelief, and then there's a refusal to there's an outright denial.
Correct.
That cannot have happened. The one thing that I've said about this entire thing, there's no problem with someone saying, well, that sounds amazing, sounds incredible, sounds extraordinary. There's a problem with saying that's you are so extraordinary that I cannot fathom the possibility that what you're saying may have any truth, and as such, I'm going to dismiss it outright and maybe even go on the offensive. So, one thing about government is it continues to grow. A major fundamental political difference between the UK and the USA, for example, is that the USA had a people's revolution, and that people's revolution was set up a constitution that's designed to protect liberty. Now, arguably, it's not done the best job at that. Arguably, it's done the best job so far out of anywhere else. However, it is in the nature of government to continue to grow and continue to exert undue and illegitimate control and authority. Give the government an emergency power, and that emergency or that power shall last forever. So what I was set up and attacked for is in the UK. So they have national healthcare, which is the health of the nation, not the individual. It's not universal healthcare. It's national healthcare, where they feel justified in socializing or nationalizing you under whatever auspices they can think of. And it doesn't have to be grounded in reality or your health or your interest. They don't care about your interests. These are the most disgusting people in your country, in the world. I have some family doctors in the NHS, and they're phenomenal. However, these people, especially these social workers, I'm not everyone, but a lot of these people are just absolute losers. They work for the state because they can't work privately. They've achieved
everyone, at least here in the States.
They're losers, in my opinion. Most of them are left wing. They work for the state. They want more money. Which fair enough, but it informs their politics, which informs their worldview, which informs their actions. So these people do not have your interests because you're not paying them to consider your interests. They're being paid, and they have a holier than thou, an anointed worldview that tends to be, especially in the UK, very left wing, and that's kind of the foundation behind the UK NHS kind of political mindset, especially in left wing cities like Manchester, for me, which is one of the most left wing places in the country, tantamount to California, I'd say. Or Oregon, maybe Oregon. So in the
same thing, you repeat yourself.
In America, you have something known as red flag laws. I'm not so familiar with them. But in the UK, this is what was known as an early intervention. And the early intervention, it's in psychosis specifically. And it's kind of a more advanced form of this socialized medicine, where basically, and if you go and read the papers of the doctor, of the psychiatrist that said, on the balance of probability, I don't believe your business is real. If you go and read his papers and you see the tonality that he's writing about, where he says, he believes he's in a high castle, an ivory tower, and he is greater than God, not just God, greater than God. He's able to intervene, to invalidate, to destroy your divine liberties, to destroy your autonomy, to go above and beyond and directly and consciously infringe on your lawfully mandated rights, because he knows best. And that's in all of his writings. So my understanding of what an early intervention is they say, well, there are and I've spoken to some people that say this is genuinely a good thing for some people. However, there's a hierarchy to it, where you start with the family. It's all about support systems. There are a lot of people struggling in the world who don't have support systems, who do fall victim to these things. However, and that's not what I'm pressing against. I'm pressing against the national healthcare system, just dehumanizing its subjects, right? Not its citizens, its subjects, dehumanizing them and saying, I'm just going to put them in this box and construct what is a delusion or a mass formation psychosis about them, and then completely invalidate and violate all of their rights and deny they exist. So what an early intervention is it says, I don't know about psychosis. I've never... It's nothing I've ever dealt with, but the point is that there's some early warning signs, and by being alerted to them early and by having some kind of early intervention therapeutic approach, they're able to mitigate or avoid these psychosis. My understanding is it's intended to be for several years, and there's oversight and overview focused on prodromal symptoms. So I think early detection and whatnot. But again, the point is, it's
that's
supposed
up
to be
them to decide what those are.
I mean, if you listen to, for example, Jordan Peterson, a clinical psychologist of private practice, he'll say, if you want to improve, it needs to be voluntary. If someone's court mandated to go see a therapist, they're not going to improve. Nothing's going to happen. My understanding is it does have to be to an extent, but if not, then there's a hierarchy of the family, of the community, of etc. And this is what the writings of this person, his name is P.O. Wilkinson, Paul Oliver Wilkinson. He's a head of psychiatry at Cambridge or something along those lines. He is a terrorist who I'm bringing to the International Criminal Court for his orchestration of this, but go read his writings. go read his writings, and you'll see he says, yeah, well, there is the family, there is this, there is childhood, but I am the soul and the highest authority in the land. I am set above the hierarchy, above God, above the laws, above individual consent, autonomy, etc. And that is what they do. So that is the red flag that occurred here. They said, well, there is someone that is extraordinary. How is he extraordinary? Well, he presents to me, who are you? But he presents to me as grandiose, and that's what triggered everything. And they said, well, there's no symptoms, there's no evidence, but perhaps grandiosity is a symptom. There are these categories, and he ticks 1, 2, maybe 3 boxes. Therefore, we go forth. And I'll get into a moment about mass formation psychosis. If there's nothing more you'd like to add on this point, maybe you have some commentary about parallel to the United States and red flag laws, which again I'm not as familiar with.
So the biggest thing that is pushed here for the red flag laws usually has to do with gun control. That's one of the big things that is pushed here. And I would just like to point out to anyone watching or listening, my blind viewers. Funny joke, but the listeners. Anyways, that this is exactly how a red flag law will play out. The specifics as far as exactly who handles it or whatever might be different here. But this is exactly how it will play out. The state will be the final say in pretty much everything, and they might have these extra steps, the family, the community, whatever they set up. However, they will have the final say, and no matter what, just like everything the state touches, it turns to shit, and they will be the final arbiter of what is considered truth. That is such a huge amount of power to give a just this corruptible tiny amount of people. It should just strike fear in everyone at the very thought of it. And as far as I understand, there are certain states already with red flag laws on the books. So be on the lookout for these sorts of things. If you do live in one of those states, I would recommend just moving. Good luck trying to change them.
I'm just looking for a Solzhenitsyn quote. It's not just that they are the arbiters of truth. I mean, ideally in under law, the arbiters of truth are a court and a jury or a judge, and there's lawfulness to it. Whereas with the healthcare system, it's extrajudicial. And they can even say we know that what we're doing is illegal, but we feel justified in doing it anyway. And just like that, there's a complete suspension of rights. C.S. Lewis says that of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. It may be better to live under robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies. The robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep, his cupidity may at some time be satiated, but those who torment us for our own goodwill torment us without end, for they do it with the approval of their own conscience.
Well, that's a great quote. So, Fight for Liberty just wrote in all the states that currently have red flag laws on the books. That is quite the list. And also DC, District of Columbia, which is our country capital. Doesn't surprise me that there's one there. Not at all. And they also have some super high, private property crime rates and just violent crime rates, which are also increasing. Find that kind of interesting.
So
however, that was a wonderful quote, by the way.
Yes. This isn't the quote I was looking for, but Solzhenitsyn, to do evil, a human being must first believe that what he's doing is good, or else that it's a well-considered act in conformity with natural law. So either that he's doing good or that it's actually good. It's the nature of human beings to seek a justification for his actions. Ideology gives evil-doing long-sought justification, giving them the necessary steadfastness and determination. But what's important is this one. That is the social theory which helps to make his acts seem good to him instead of bad in his own and others' eyes, so that he won't hear reproaches and curses, but will receive praises and honors. In other words, you talked about them being able to determine the truth. It's not just about them determining the truth, because they, the state, I had one Einsatzgruppe, an action team, say, this is our truth. And again, I'm looking forward to talking about the psychology behind that. But then when the NHS actually have me in custody, I'm in a psychiatric hospital, and they do an extensive psychiatric evaluation and say, what is he doing here? Everything he said is real. There's not a single symptom, no justification for this. And then I go to the state, I say, I've been tortured. Here's what your doctor has said, that this is all illegal. But then all of the state rally around the original action group and around the police and around everyone else, and they ignore that the NHS have the one that's actually sat down and properly considered me with some degree of due process. I said, well, this is all crap. And they have refused to accept that truth, and they've refused to take any accountability that they were wrong whatsoever. And this is on a national level. I've gone to every single institution in the UK, including the independent organizations, and they've all said either we don't want to deal with this, or, well, you know, what they did was based on what they've done, so we're not going to prosecute them, or you know, they heard from this one person that said something. In that case, they're all doing it rightly. Or in the case of the police, you know, yes, the warrant was illegal. Yes, we've deleted the body cameras. Yes, the record we've put down is fraudulent, but we're pretty sure we acted in your best interest. Or the NHS, most hilariously, they say, well, aren't you glad we were there for you during your earliest stages of psychosis? We hope you can recover from the, we hope you can recover well. And it's like, recover from what? Your torture. So yeah, it's truly nightmarish.
Just adding insult to injury. it's just like, we know we just fucked everything up. We know that this is completely illegal, but we hope we did well. Like,
one of the worst things, and I haven't got in, I guess I'll get into in the interrogation when I'm being criticized, when I'm being interrogated, no criticism, interrogated for my business. They say to me, I was living in my rented accommodation from, it was supposed to be my second year accommodation at university, which my two housemates had chosen. I didn't get a say in because I was voted out. They say, you know, if you were real, if you were a startup founder, then the place that you're living in, it doesn't look so great here. They say, where's your penthouse apartment? And they say, it was so easy to get you here. Where's your private security? We'll get you again. They asked me, what are you doing here? I said, what are you talking about? And then they say these things. What are you doing here? Says the government to the citizen. I don't have the right to a lawyer. I don't have any rights. I need to have private security. I need to live in a penthouse apartment, even though I'm at risk of financial vulnerability, living in nice, reasonable student accommodation, because I'm a businessman. How can I be living in student accommodation? Or it was a regular accommodation, a residential, but you know, near the university or whatever. I wanted to say something. I'll come back to it. But yeah, there's just this insanity on there by them, and it comes down to a mass formation psychosis. So what is mass formation psychosis? So it's psychosis. It's being literally crazy, being unable to ascertain reality. Now, this is what they accused me of. They said, we don't know what's wrong with him. Maybe a psychotic episode. The official diagnosis was a delusional psychosis, which means you've completely lost all touch with reality. Whereas, ironically, that was what they had done. So how does this happen? Well, it starts at the base level with a potential for ideological bias. So again, these people who I believe the evidence shows and the environment that they have ideological biases, predominantly of Marxist socialism, which predisposes them against capitalism or individuals perceived as capitalists or free market enterprise. Then you have a false report and prejudice. So I'm falsely reported as a business owner, which aligns with the agency's ideological and prejudiced view, as well as, again, this holier than thou anointed, we are the tyrants for your own good. Then they don't have an objective investigation. There's no lawyer on this team saying, giving it any oversight. There is a biased team going after you, attempting to investigate you, but really it's just to build up to confirm their biases. So evidence and information about the individual are interpreted through this lens of the agency's biases. It's not lawful. There's no balance. There's no due process. For instance, being a business owner is not seen as responsibility. Which means he's better than me because I live in a crap house down the street. It's seen as a sign of financial vulnerability or exploitation. When they encounter evidence which goes against their narrative, for example, you talk about the family. They phoned my mother, January 2021. Are you aware your son has a business? Yes. You're crazy. We can't believe this. We're going to shelf that. We're never going to see it again. So that evidence never pops up again when they present their narrative, for example, for the warrant. One person said it, they didn't report it, or it never got logged into the bureaucracy. This one thought that they have. So they dismiss the contradictory evidence. There's cognitive biases, confirmation bias. They're just either rationalizing away, ignoring it, or deliberately, which is the malevolence, deliberately. They have this false narrative and they continue to reinforce it. Multiple pieces of evidence that contradict the false narrative, they're witnessed, but they are not acknowledged or are rationalized to fit the narrative. For example, they come to my house and I'm wearing a business suit, a 3-piece pinstripe suit. Maybe I'm on a Bluetooth headset. They say I'm speaking to voices in my house, all dressed up when there's no one around. Then they see me going for a run, wearing running bottoms, and they say, right, well, comparisonly, he's looking scruffy, which means he can't take care of himself. Overall, this agency experiences a phenomenon known as groupthink, where the desire for harmony or conformity in the group results in an irrational decision-making outcome. And what they do is they build and reinforce this false narrative, which begins to escalate, because at first there's no risk to himself or others, but he has a business, this was quite funny. I am unable to assess over the phone whether there is an underlying factual basis to his claims, and it may be that he does have a successful startup company, writes Oliver Wilkinson. However, he's refusing to let us assess his company, so we cannot determine it, therefore. So it escalates and it escalates and escalates. The narrative goes from the individual being seen as potentially financial vulnerable to being accused of serious crimes like solicitation to murder, which is what they used to get the warrant finally, which carries an imprisonment of life in prison up to solicitation to murder. They said he's going to kill us all because I said you need to cease and desist. I'm not like this is it. I didn't say this is it. I said you need to cease and desist. You're terrorizing me. I haven't been so angry in 5 years. So they say 5 years ago he nearly killed someone and he's going to kill us now. And that's how they twist it. So they continue to try and justify their initial beliefs and actions, leading to more extreme conclusions. And not once do they have any self-reflection. And if they do have self-reflection, like they did in my case, we acknowledge the possibility that Adam may not have a mental illness. We do not have the grounds. There are no grounds to. We want to get a warrant, but that we feel there are no grounds to get this. That just gets ignored, displaced. It doesn't matter. They cannot admit they were wrong. They just keep going, and there's no way to stop this. Again, they say, well, you refuse to engage with us. It's like, no, I spent 24 hours before that point engaging with you and the police and formal complaints and phoning up your administration, having my company phoning up your administration, and having my mother being phoned by your administration, everyone telling you the same thing. And again, none of this was lawful. None of this was required. None of this was mandated. It falls outside of their mandate. But admitting error would be fallibility, and this is what the independent organizations have said. Well, yes, what they've done wasn't right, but it was based on this, which is not justification for torture. An order from a higher up and someone else is not a justification to engage in illegal activities. And when it comes to this, articulately and compellingly earlier how this was torture in the first call. If you are complicit or participate in torture, which is the deliberate infliction of suffering, mental or physical, psychological, deliberately, then complicity, participation, you cannot justify as, well, someone else was dealing with that. So again, I'm interrogated, despite providing voluble and expert knowledge that impresses all of these people. They refuse to believe me. This disbelief is part of that delusion where the reality presented by the subject, by the individual, does not fit the constructed narrative of the agency. They cannot, this narrative, this propaganda is infallible. They can't, and there's no due process, and there's no legal representation. And they feel they are justified because they're doing this in my own, for your own benefit, and they're above the law.
For your safety.
For your own good, beyond your safety, for your own good. So I was then labeled as being...
Bless them for taking such pity on us.
I was then labeled...
I feel so safe.
labeled as being being delusional, psychosis, and sectioned. I was released the next day, supported by substantial evidence. The release should indicate a breaking point in the delusion, where the evidence becomes too overwhelming to ignore. But it's not. And to this day, they've refused to accept wrongdoing. And I've exhausted domestic remedies. Every agency in the United Kingdom, specifically my grandfather, who's in his 80s, he spent every available day the past 2 years dealing with these UK agencies, with everyone from members of parliaments to every agency to independents to boards of directors, and they're all covering it up in spite of the overwhelming evidence, which is why I've had...
They cannot admit wrongdoing. All of a sudden, then that shows that the system that they have put in place is fallible. And then maybe all of a sudden there isn't such justification for such a system. And then money disappears, jobs disappear. So they can't admit that they did wrong. Otherwise, there's no justification for their existence.
The craziest thing is, in my case, yeah, they did something wrong. Yeah, they did something wrong. Yeah, they did something wrong. But, people will say, well, again, how can this happen in a democracy? Isn't there rule of law? Isn't there a legal basis and safeguarding to this? No. Right? Words on paper. The only delusion I had was I have human rights. I know what they're doing is wrong, and they have no basis for what they're doing. Therefore, I have nothing to fear. I'm not taking this seriously. The law should protect me. No. Power. Power goes beyond the law. So that there are international statutes to protect against this. Specifically, there's the General Assembly Resolution 37194 is the Principles of Medical Ethics. Here are 6 principles you need to abide by. They broke every single one. Here is the United Nations Declaration, Convention on Torture, Convention on Disappeared Persons, the Rome Statute, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. What they write specifically is we acknowledge that what we are doing, we acknowledge that what we are doing, we recognize that executing a warrant has implications for Adams' Article 5, human right to liberty, and Article 8, right to privacy. However, we feel that this is a proportionate intervention at this time due to risks of health and safety because of his mental illness. There was no evidence for mental. That was what they've written in the warrant. There was no evidence of a mental illness. What they said is we haven't been able to assess him. He's refusing to engage with us, which I was right to do. It was well within my rights to do this. But they say, but due to this mental illness, which we have no evidence to believe, but we've had a report, and the one healthcare professional, the one GP, keeps insisting she's right, and this is the case. So we cannot release him back to the GP because the GP insists. And the GP then, she said, my company is not a company, it's a cult. That going hiking is a dangerous walk.
This is a lot of projection. This is incredible.
It's like, people talk about how this infantilizes the population, which is true. You don't have the responsibility, the management responsibility to go and take a walk with your friend, even though you've mountaineered across England and Wales and Scotland and Bulgaria. I don't feel comfortable doing that. So you cannot. It's all projection. It's all nonsense. And yet they don't have any evidence to support this. But it doesn't matter because it's power. They believe they're justified, therefore they are, and that's all that matters. And there's no due process.
Justified
there's no safeguard.
in subverting anything set in place to protect you because they say so.
So I get released from the psychiatric hospital. The doctor says, run, hide, run, go. Try and get someone else to deal with the consequences of this because it's going to be extremely traumatic for you, which is what I did. But go home and then run. I did that. I had to go get an MRI and a colonoscopy to assess the damage done from being deprived of my medication. Thankfully, nothing too bad occurred, but that took a couple weeks to settle through as I was packing up my life, saying goodbye to my friends and family, spending time with my grandparents for as little as I had left with them. And during this time, they're trying to keep tracks on me, right? Oh, he's left Manchester. He's now in London. Maybe he needs to go register in London, go speak. Maybe he needs to have an assessment down there.
How did they do that? How did they try to keep track of you? Were they tracking you through your phone, social media?
No.
Actual surveillance, like trailing you?
In Manchester, it was actual physical surveillance, trailing me, going from stores, running around the neighborhood, peeking through my window. Here, the doctor said that I was going down to London, so they're doing that. And particularly with the healthcare system, I have to go pick up medications, so they're looking for where I'm flagging up there. Which I'll get on in just a moment. So. I guess I'll say it now. When I had to leave the country, I had about a month's worth of medication. I was kidnapped on the 29th of April. I left the country on the 31st of May. I ran out of medication. I had 2 left. I was going to go on the 2nd of June. I'd be out of medication, or I think the 1st. So I go to a pharmacy, I say, look, here's my medication. It's exclusively an anti-inflammatory. It doesn't do anything else. Can I please fill my prescription? They say, computer says no. Computer says no. You need your GP to tell us to pick up your medication. I said, look, I'm an adult. I have this disease. I need this medication or I'll be in enormous pain. Please, can I get this medication? No, your GP needs to tell you. Well, my GP is a terrorist. What do I do? So I didn't get the medication. As a result, when I left the country, come to this foreign land, which I'm in, don't speak a word of the language, don't have those medical connections. I didn't have medicine. I went and got these tablet forms of I have long release granules. I take once, last the day. Couldn't find that. I needed a prescription or something, or I don't know. I don't speak the language. I was in enormous distress, suffering PTSD, and all the accompanying. So I'm using these tablets, but they're short release, short form, which means I'm in constant pain every 3-4 hours. I don't know how to deal with this. So thank you, NHS, with your totalitarian system, more pain inflicted. In contrast, here in Bulgaria, I go to pharmacy. I say, hey, can I get this medication and even this medication? And more often than not, they just say, yes. Here, it costs this much. Here you go. They say, sometimes they say, do you have a prescription? Yes, I do. Okay. It's not, I'm an adult. Again, I'm not, this isn't opium or that benzodiazepines.
Any sort of narcotic or anything that you could abuse.
Doesn't have a correct. It doesn't have. It does. It's not an abuse. It's just medication. So, and that's not all the time. We've just tried to get some antibiotics, and they said we needed 2, but the prescription only said 1. And they said you need to go speak to the. Okay, fine, whatever. It's not the biggest deal, but generally, I don't. I'm an adult here. I'm an adult everywhere, but generally you're not being not just infantilized, but invalidated by the state actions. So they, you need your GP. I remember in one text they write that he's going to run out of medicine soon, so he's going to have to go and get medicine, and that's going to have to go through the GP, which is quite sinister. I was unable to do it. As such, I was in a great deal of pain when I got to this foreign country, and before I was able to find a hospital that speaks English that I could go see. So before I left, though, I spent a few weeks in London, and it's my birthday in May the 20th. So I figured I don't like London. I find it to be not a great place to live. It's a concrete jungle. It's depressing. There's a lack of humanity there. At the same time, I grew up there, born, raised, lived there 20 years. It's not the worst city in the world. Manchester seems to be due to the governance, but it's not great. So for my birthday, my last great British adventure is what I called it. I went back up to Manchester to go get my things, to say hello to my housemate, and we decided we'd go climb the mountain in Wales, in 2 hours to the west, Snowdonia. We went, climbed the mountain. Unfortunately, there was a storm, yellow wind warnings, which unavoidable, couldn't do anything. And I'd forgotten, I was unable to find my waterproof leggings in time when I left London. I had to go, I was searching for them. I was living out of my car and an office at the time because I'd been driven out of the home, told don't go back to this home. My housemate texts me saying, there's been 4 or 5 knocks on the door. I think they're still coming around physically looking for you in Manchester. Sinister. So we go to Snowdon, and it's May, and the mountain's about 1,000 meters high. But the most vicious storm I've been in blizzards, 2,000 meters up. This is the most vicious storm I've been in. We get to the top. It's quite nice. There's the summit of Snowdon. It's got a circle of stones. I took out my axe. I smashed the circle of stones. I went, fuck this country. and then not 5 seconds later, ice crystals started forming in my legs. I was getting second degree frostbite in my legs. I say to my friend, fuck. I see my fingers start to freeze. I put on a new pair of gloves. I said, we got to go. And we run off the mountain. The storm gets worse and worse. When we got there, the storm, it was just like hitting the summit of the mountain, which is all formed, of the mountain. It's on one of the westernmost points of the Atlantic Ocean. This is where the storms come in. Vicious storm, yellow wind warnings, soaked in there for 3-4 hours. It wasn't particularly cold. I didn't feel any cold. But after 3-4 hours climbing the mountain, I hit at the summit. My legs started freezing. We run like the mountain, the water. First off, the wind's threatening to blow us off the mountain. The rain's coming down. We see a guy on the mountain. He's like going up and doesn't look so prepared. We're like, what are you doing? He's like, I said, we gotta go. And we run down the mountain, taking cover. That was dangerous, but it wasn't so bad. My friend had thermal leggings on. I did not. I couldn't find my waterproofs. I got back to Manchester eventually, and I was in pain, to say the least. I had gloves. I had socks. I had mountaineering boots. So my extremities were fine, but my legs, my lower back, around there, that was all damaged to some degree. And what happens is second degree frostbite, ice crystals formed in my legs. When the ice forms, it causes necrosis of the cell tissue. Necrosis is very painful. I imagine if you get bitten by a snake, painful, necrosis the tissue. I got back to Manchester. I took a bath. I rubbed on ointments and things. I spent a few hours researching. I'm first aid qualified, but I'd never suffered frostbite like this before. Think frost nip in the fingers sometimes. Nothing like this. Eventually, I get in bed. I can hardly move. My legs feel frozen stiff after I've soaked in the tub, after I've done some first aid with aloe vera. You treat it like burns, by the way, if you get burnt by the cold. Aloe vera massage, warm, not hot, warm water bath. I phone up the non-emergency hotline. I say, I've got second degree frostbite. It's not third degree. It's not first degree. It's in my legs. I'm in a lot of pain. What do you think I should do? They said, you need to go to a hospital straight away. So, okay, it's almost 2 a.m. at this point. I said, okay. They say, you need to go to this hospital, Manchester Royal Infirmary. I say, well, is there another one I can go to? They say, no, that's the one. You have to go there. It's the closest. Once open, go. Fair enough, reasonable. I go there. I get triaged by some fat, chubby young doctor guy in training. I say to him, as a first aider, as a mountain leader, as someone that's spent several hours researching symptoms, treating it properly, I say, look, I've got second degree frostbite in my legs, back. He says, show me your fingers, show me your toes. I go, nothing there. He goes, show me. Okay, look, they're fine. Go take a seat. I'm sitting like this because I've got second degree frostbite in my legs. It's painful. They say, Adam, yes, right this way. Okay. They take me to lie down. Wonderful. Thank you. So a doctor will be in here. I'm waiting on a dermatologist. Instead, Alan Coe, the director of mental health at the Manchester Royal Infirmary, comes in, closes the door, locks it behind me. What are you doing here? Huh? What are you doing here? You're not injured. You're mentally ill. So hold on a minute. What are you talking about? There's a gazebo outside. We can hear the storm smashing the gazebo. The storm came in from the Atlantic. We're 200 miles inland. You can hear the storm. You can check the weather on that day, 20 May 2021, yellow weather warning. There was a storm. You can't lie about this. They said, you're not sick. What are you doing here? I get angry. Who the hell are you? What's your name? He hides his badge, but I see it. Alan Coe. I say, Alan Coe. I see he I say, get out, you know, da, da, da. He leaves the room. I shout out to a man in the hallway, "Excuse me, I need your help. I've just been assaulted by that man. You know, I need some help here." And he says, "Well, I find that hard to believe because that's the head of mental health at this hospital, and you're locked up in a psychiatric ward." I freeze, trauma. I realize I'm 3 doors down on the other side of the hallway from where I was originally imprisoned on the 29th of April. I book it. The doors, they're locked through magnetism. I learned in school, which had magnet locks. You can smash those things open. So I get through 3 broken magnetic lock doors. I'm being chased by them. "Stop, come back." I say, "Fuck off, you terrorist, get away from me." I run to my car. They're chasing me to the car. I slam it in reverse, almost hit a guy. I run off into the night. Evasive maneuvers through the city, find a place I know I'm not followed, calm, like turn the lights off, chill. What the fuck just happened? Phone my mother, 3 a.m. Like, this just happened. It's so awful. Like, help. She phones the hospital. They say, well, first off, they say this had nothing to do with that first incident of everything else that's happened. Independent. What they said was, it is extraordinary for someone to come in with second-degree frostbite, claiming they've climbed a mountain. Well, there's no mountains in this city. And his extremities weren't damaged. So rather than have a dermatologist come in, rather than saying, well, that's extraordinary, but grandiose even, but it all logically follows, everything it's logical, it's just not normal. Rather than have a doctor come and assess the injuries, they send the head of mental health who comes in and immediately assaults me. Again, this isn't infantilization, it's invalidation. You are mentally ill. What are you talking about? There is no storm outside. What the? Oh my! So I run home. I'm worried they're going to come after me the next day. So it's 5 a.m. I'm packing up my things from the house, trying to get everything home. My roommate, it's 5 a.m. Can you shut up? Like, no, like, I'm terrified. I'm going. Ended up collapsing from exhaustion. I got a ticket on my car because it's parked out the door because I couldn't walk. I end up taking as much as I can and going an hour, 2 hours to the next hospital on the way down to London, Stoke University Hospital, where I said the story, and they said, okay, lie down, dermatologist. Oh, yes, you have second-degree frostbite. I say, right, is there this medicine that I can take? They said, no, that medicine is for third-degree frostbite. You don't need it. Here's what you need to do instead. So that's kind of what I was doing. So, okay, I was seen by a doctor who said, yes, you have second-degree frostbite. It's going to hurt for a month, 2. That was it. This is the level of systematic, or maybe this is systemic. This is systemic prejudice, bias, and insanity in national healthcare. Where, in contrast, if you go and look at you will not, but if the ICC goes and looks at my International Criminal Court, goes and looks at my first gastroenterology report, it says Adam presented with these symptoms. He is the CEO of a financial company. That's all it said. What the national healthcare system says is, well, this is extraordinary. We're not going to consider this person individually, but on a national level, we're just going to attack. And that is the evil, malevolent cynicism of the national healthcare system.
Seemingly for no reason.
No reason at all. Again, what's the reason in this story? Adam is extraordinary. He's climbed a mountain. He's got frostbite. The frostbite's not in his extremities, but his legs and lower back. So rather than say, well, that is it's quite a story. Let's go get a doctor to check it out to verify. None of that. Straight, the head of mental health at the Manchester Royal Infirmary, Alan Coe, who I've not really been able to find. You are mentally ill. There's no storm. Just straight attack. And that's the tyranny of the UK. And when I say that there was this moment of utter terror in the hospital, trauma, the words, "we will get you again," the realization I'm back imprisoned in this psychiatric hospital for doing literally nothing, perhaps even doing virtuous activities, adventure, expedition, entrepreneurship. All of a sudden you recognize in the UK you have no rights, you have no security. Without that, you have no quality of life. If you're subject to these arbitrary detentions, you have no standard of life. It was at this point I'd already bought my plane ticket out, but it is untenable for me, and I urge everyone else to live in the United Kingdom underneath this malevolent governance. And so I left the UK to Bulgaria, where I sought asylum.
And once you got there, we kind of touched on this in the last episode, but you got over there and they denied you. They denied you asylum. And from my understanding, um, you know, without going into all the detail, basically they stated that because this happened in the UK, that it couldn't have happened in such a functional
They
country with a democracy.
they said it. They said the UK, that there are no reports of human rights violations in the UK in recent years. No reports, which is a lie. Even by the UN, by Human Rights Watch, by Amnesty, they all say, yeah, the UK's got some problems. I can just say Julian Assange. I say, yeah, fair enough. I can say that people are arrested for praying in their head on the sidewalks. If that's not a human rights violation, I don't know what is. So what they said was the State Agency for Refugees said, we're denying his asylum because it's a safe country. Therefore, we're not going to consider the individual merit of the case. We're just going to refuse it on that basis, which we kind of expected. We kind of expected. So I had to go appeal it, but it's disappointing to say the least, and especially it's disappointing to say the least and illegal. But then we can talk about how I wasn't allowed to appeal, which is insane.
Yeah, of course. So, you had mentioned that after you had gone through that, they denied. They didn't allow you to appeal, which you do have the right to do. Now, my understanding is that they kind of tricked you, for lack of a better term, and denied your evidence that you had provided, somewhere around 24 pages, proving the situations that you had been through, correct?
Correct. If it's all right, can I just take a 3-minute break to quickly run to the bathroom?
Yes, of course.
Talk about your sponsor, talk about anything you want in the case.
Yes, of course.
Right,
this is actually a perfect time for everyone to make sure and hit that like button, hit the subscribe. I have gone ahead and hit or added Adam's Telegram. Go ahead and go follow him. It's Liberty Rising Group, t.me/Liberty Rising Group. And yes, this is a perfect time to bring up attention listeners. Nope, sorry, wrong one. Here we go. NaduShaveCo.com. Make sure and go check them out. Absolutely amazing shave. The days of big shave are over. NaduShaveCo.com. Promo code RISE15 for 15% off your order. Nadu Shave Co., where tradition beats modernity. You know, it's absolutely incredible. I said this before, I'll say it again. It's incredible to me that there are people out there that state that this cannot happen in today's world. I believe Adam did make a very great point that there is a level of, you know, not being able to believe something, but then there is just a level of deniability. People just deny what their eyes and their ears see and hear. And there are so many people that outwardly and even inwardly blatantly reject what they see and what they hear. Now, I imagine, hopefully this story does get out to as many people as possible. I imagine that there would be people that would find this story, Adam's story, to be so unbelievable that they would reject it. And I would hope at least that, you know, none of these would be my listeners. I do challenge anyone who does not believe, um, go ahead and comment whether you do believe or don't believe. Go ahead, leave a comment. Make sure hit the like and subscribe, or hit the dislike for all I care. But it's hard to ignore such a thing when somebody has the ability to prove exactly what they have been through. Um, I assume Adam, if anyone has any questions, and we'll get to how people can get a hold of you, but I assume you'd be willing to answer questions if somebody was genuinely curious about this.
Absolutely willing to answer questions, willing to show the proof I am able to, given everything I need to. But yeah, all questions. You'll see that there is nothing in my narrative which is contradictory or in any fashion. It's all very logical, makes sense because it is the truth. And as such, I've been able to tell the same consistent story for 2.5 years now with no deviation because I just describe what I've been through.
Yeah. So we were getting ready to discuss after you had been denied asylum. What had happened after that?
Yes. So I'm just pulling up my annex to my diplomatic appeal, inhuman or degrading treatment, which is deprivation of. So by this treatment of me, a series of actions initiated by an unlawful and baseless demand, constituting gross abuses, gross violations. This deliberate and systematic campaign to invalidate and destroy my identity has not only dehumanized me and undermined, invalidated my personal narrative, but also my professional integrity. I had a stellar reputation. It wasn't, I'm not perfect. No one is. But I hadn't done anything bad. I hadn't done anything wrong. As such, people were willing to work with me. I was at the top of my game when back in 2020, 2021. But with all this hanging over me, there's two narratives that can emerge as to why. 3 narratives as to why the state agency may be able to deny the asylum. What they went with is it is illogical. This circumstances exists outside the mandate, the competence of the National Health Service. It's illogical for them to be trying to convince me of the non-existence of my company, which was lawfully registered and legally operating, which is true. So then they say, well, that's not an act of persecution, or I don't substantiate a risk of persecution, even though that's illogical, because what they say is that the refugee history is manifestly unreliable. So we don't believe him, even though I didn't apply for asylum straight away. I applied almost a year later, once I'd compiled 24 pages, a 6 plus 18-page document, 6 pages, I'm claiming asylum, this is why, 18 pages, here's all the evidence and commentary and implications. Not as legally, solid as I'm doing today, but a solid effort for an asylum seeker with extreme vulnerability, and beyond what one should do. One should, and beyond the UN standards, convention protocols for how state agencies are supposed to deal with asylum seekers, including as well, there's a European standard for this, Directive 2011/95 EU. Specifically, how do they, the standards, qualifications of asylum people, and how you're supposed to deal with that. So none of that's followed. So this persecution has followed me to Bulgaria, where they've said I am manifestly unreliable due to the extraordinary nature of my case. Where the UK, where this cannot occur in the UK because it would be against the law, there are safeguarding mechanisms in place to prevent this. Impunity is not a problem in the UK. Rotherham. This would be illegal. This is outside their mandate. This is. They didn't say crazy, but this is crazy. This is absurd, ridiculous. We're going to dismiss it. That's narrative 1. Narrative 2 is to say, I think 2 and 3 are related. Narrative 2 is to say I deserved it. Is to say you are mentally ill, and as a result, you being taken to hospital and assessed and deprived of your liberty is all justified, valid, therefore acceptable, and therefore was not an act of persecution because it was right. Now that can be disproven easily with the discharge summary, which I've included in all my legal communications. Here's the discharge summary by the doctor of the NHS saying there were no grounds, I am legitimate, this was all crap. So you invalidate that. And the third is to say that, so either unreliable, is mentally ill, and then you say that maybe this happened, but I'm mentally ill, so whatever, let's ignore him, let's invalidate him, let's minimize it. So what ended up happening is I go and apply for asylum. I get rejected on those grounds. And then we go to the largest, I've been to the United Nations, UOM, something of migration, the migration agency of the United Nations. They say, we can't help you. I say, who can? They say, go to the Helsinki Committee. I go to as many NGOs looking for help. They all kind of say, go to the Bulgarian Helsinki Committee. What they are is the largest human rights organization in Bulgaria. In Europe, we have something known as the Helsinki Committee. It's kind of a federation of NGOs. They're non-government organizations, but it's a supranational one with individual branches in many of the countries. Their main activities are is monitoring the human rights situation here, advocating with the authorities to improve human rights, protecting these rights through litigation, and being the greatest supporter of human rights in Bulgaria. The largest one is what they say. So we go to them, they say this is awful. They say this is awful. First off, you're not going to get, your asylum is going to be rejected from the state agency of refugees. We do legal aid. Everyone said, come to us for legal aid. We do legal aid. What's happened to you is awful. You've shown us the proof. We're going to get you through. So I get the rejection. I email them, and all of a sudden, the director says, we're not going to deal with Adam. Let's get that up. What she says, so I sent, hey, my asylum's been rejected. I'm trying to get, my asylum's been rejected. Here's the appeal. I send it to them. I say, here's the rejection. Please let me know what I need to do. And they said, well, you've been refused. You need to go to a okay. They said, you've been refused. You've missed your deadline, so the refusal could become final. If you've managed to submit an appeal, I'd already, as soon as the appeal was denied, I went straight to them. They wrote the appeal. We went back to the agency. Here's the appeal. We appealed this decision immediately. The next day, I believe, or the same day. We did appeal. Here you go. Here's the evidence we've appealed. Can you help? They say, your appeal has been prepared by us as part of our legal aid. However, based on the assessment of your case, which we have done while preparing your appeal, you have been advised that we will not be going to represent you before a court, which was not the case. I said, well, hello, you've told me that you will be providing me. I do not understand your email. You have now, to confirm, you've now reevaluated my case and withdrawn your support. May I ask why? Can you confirm your refusal to defend my person that was deprived of liberty with a clear National Socialist conspiracy to violate my basic rights? They write, you need to check your court file to see who the legal aid is. I say, how do I check my court file? As a refugee, I'm in a distant and foreign country. Everything's confusing. I don't understand how to do this. Neras biram. I don't understand. I say, I've attached a minimum, clear, demonstrable, substantiated, and overwhelming evidence that I am the victim of 2, violation of basic human rights. In additional evidence submitted, I show this was motivated by my ethnicity, religion, and age, a minority deprived of my rights. Why am I encountering such resistance? Are my rights being rejected as a foreigner? This is what the rejection letter says. I'm from the UK, therefore I'm being denied. I was told I'd get no legal protection in the UK. I say, why have you changed your mind? Please offer a concise justification, summarizing your careful analysis. So I attach the admission where they say, yes, we admit this is wrong. He has no symptoms, no concerns whatsoever. We acknowledge he may not have a mental illness. And that we do not have there are no grounds to request a warrant. His mother denies any mental health problems. Here's the discharge summary, extensively reviewed. No this, no, nothing. I'm a legitimate person. And I get back an answer in Bulgarian, which, if I translate it, basically says, so I've emailed her, this is Ileana Savova, the director of refugees at the Bulgarian Helsinki Committee, and she's emailed everyone else that has the email. She's emailed the following. This man is a British citizen with mental health problems, which are not grounds for a status. We have written him a request for legal aid for the court, which will surely be provided to him. I'm quite angry at this point. I went,
under what grounds does she have to claim?
So that's what she sent to everyone, and I was, I believe, accidentally included. Then she emails me, CCing in the chairman, we've never pledged to represent you, which is a lie. We told you we will consider your case, which is different, which is a lie, and wasn't her that said it. We're moving on. Kind regards. I say, how dare you, slanderous scum? I say, are you insane, or is something wrong with you? What mental health issues do I have other than post-traumatic stress disorder? You can see in this attachment, it shows this. You're a vile woman. No respecting institution should work with you. So she goes, sir, it's my opinion. I think you need a treatment, but it's neither my expertise or position to advise you on that. I say,
but she can diagnose you over email.
I said that, don't worry, scum. I have a great therapist for the trauma. I think you need treatment, delusional idiot. What I need is a competent human rights lawyer. Evidently, you are an incompetent psychotic. Now, that's quite very rude, but given the violation abuse from her, quite reasonable. I then sent a long letter to the senior partners, the chairman, board director, co-founder, and advocate, where I dismantle it. I say, this person is an insult to everything you stand for. It is your obligation to defend my rights in this case. She is completely out of line. It is illegal for her to have written such a response. You can see the attachments. This is what happened. I was the victim of unqualified ideological, I wrote National Socialists, but it's Marxist socialism, pseudo medical practitioners. I have a case against them. Have you considered submitting her to an IQ test? Fascinating. Fascinatingly, the chairman and founder of the Bulgarian Helsinki Committee wrote a biography where he said, some of the worst things that I've seen. Dr. Kanev, you're a human rights specialist. I read you're a strong advocate for the rights of people in vulnerable situations. Can you tell us about the most alarming human rights violation cases? We have had lots of cases of people who were ill-treated, held in inhuman environments in psychiatric institutions. We have such tragic events taking place in almost all psychiatric institutions. Lots of serious human rights violations take place here, including deaths. I write, this is all in my email. I said, look, in all my communication to the State Agency of Refugee and to you, I've backed up every allegation with evidence, reason, objective facts. I expect that you treat this impropriety with utmost attention, urgency, take the necessary actions, take responsibility. I am perfectly mentally well. I have yet to take my story public. This is not a matter of if, but when. How will the Bulgarian Helsinki Committee be portrayed? I demand justice. Finally, I do apologize for my temperament in responding to Ileana this morning. I woke up to discover a revolting assault on my basic decencies by a supposedly human rights organization. As any normal human should, I reacted emotionally. I stand behind my communication and condemn this villain, but do apologize for the language used, tone. So, quite very reasonable, I've done nothing wrong. I've done everything. Again, I feel comfortable enough to just read this out. Heard nothing back from them. So all of a sudden, so they say something about a court. I say, how do I do this? I've got no idea. I don't know who a lawyer. I don't know how to do any of this. Tell me. I try and do that. I write to the National Legal Aid Bureau here in Bulgaria, and they write me back a letter, which is written in Bulgarian on printed paper. They've printed the paper and scanned it back, so I cannot copy it and paste it into a translator. I've got no idea what it says. I say to a Bulgarian friend of mine, I say, what does this say? He reads through it. It says, basically, they say they're not going to help you. Oh, great. So I phone up the agency. I say, when's my court date? I have no idea what's going on. No one's telling me anything. The most I get is this letter.
Nope. Looks like he clicked out of himself real quick. Everyone, hold on a sec while we get him back. Let's see. In the meantime, this is just such an incredible story. So, looks like he is back. All right.
Clicked the wrong thing.
No worries.
No idea what's going on. I'm an asylum seeker in a foreign country. I don't speak the language. It's a different, it's not like French or German or Spanish, which I kind of know. It's Bulgarian. I can't read. I can't even read the alphabet properly at this point. I can, but I don't know. I know 5 words. No idea what's going on. I'm not getting legal representation. The lawyers aren't responding back to me. I don't know what's going on. And eventually, I'm phoning up the agency. When's my court date? Not hearing anything back. And I just thought, okay, well, they know where I live. I presented that. I just check my mailbox every day. I have to get a summons. I have to be summoned to court, right? That's what they said. You'll be summoned to court. They said this person is going to be my translator, and I'll get a lawyer when I get there. Okay. The best advice I can get out of this is you need to get your own private lawyer. Don't rely on the state whatsoever. but I've gone to all these NGOs. I need help. No, I've gone to United Nations. I need help. Go to these people. I've tried. I've gone everywhere. And ultimately, what ended up happening is I was not invited, summoned to the court, and they had the case without me. I didn't think that was possible. It is. There was not even a person appointed there. They never got in touch with me. I had no idea how to get in touch with them. I wasn't given any instructions. Just go to the Helsinki Committee from the official authorities. So my company, Liberty Rising Group, is now an association now incorporated in Bulgaria. This is the first time I'm publicizing my story. Bulgarian Helsinki Committee, this is a declaration against you. You're terrible, and I will get round to you legally. I will take the legal action that I'm mandated to against this violation, and I will be publicizing how much of an egregious violator of human rights, not a defender, this organization is. So I end up not being able to go to court. Violation of national laws, international laws, whatever. I had no idea what was discussed in the court. I didn't even know the court case happened until I hear a knock at the door. Knock, knock, knock. We were sleeping. So my landlord phones me up. He says, Adam, the police are looking for you. What are you talking about? They've just come to your apartment. You weren't in. So I was, but we had a very heavy, thick enforced door in the hallway. The doorbell didn't go off. I don't know. So we phone up the migration agency, and they say, yes, we're looking for you. Please come in. We go in, and they say, here you are. You're being deported. What? But I need to go to court. No, the court's happened. When? That's illegal. It's crap. I want to appeal this. So I said, look, that's illegal. It's a violation. I have the right to appeal. You need to give me due process, and you need to inform me that summon me to court.
Adequate notice.
Quick notice. None of that happened. And they said, yeah. And they said, look, we know this is illegal. We know this is unjust, but we have our orders here to deport you, and you can't do that. So I want to appeal this. They said, it's been 6 weeks since the enforcement of court. You have 2 weeks to appeal. As such, you cannot appeal. You cannot take it to the Supreme Court. You're being deported. They were quite nice, these officers. I said to them, look, if you attempt to deport me, I will not go peacefully, and you may lose an arm. You may be victorious in whatever you aim to do, but you will not be deporting me. I will not go. This would be torture. I have the right to non-refoulement. I'm not going back to the UK under any circumstances. I'd rather fight to the death right here and now, rather than face certain torture just living in the UK, let alone the possibility of going back into custody for living a better life than the state bureaucrats. So that's how I was denied asylum and denied due process. And that's how I was deported, which we'll get to if you want to circle back. But I get back from deportation. Okay, so they say, we don't need to deport you, but you need to leave. What we recommend, you need to be gone for at least a week, spend 8 days in Greece, Serbia, Romania, Turkey, Austria, France, wherever. Spend at least 7 days out and then come back in. You'll be fine. Then maybe try and apply for residency or deal with something. And so, okay, I went to Greece. I had a great time. I climbed Olympus. I went to the Pindos Mountains. One of the most beautiful places I've ever seen, called Vikos Gorge. Gorgeous, the epitome of gorgeous, and it's the most gorgy place in the world in terms of width, depth versus width. A really nice holiday. The only holiday I've really had. The only holiday I've had out of the country, certainly. And I came back in, very nervous coming through the border. Okay, you're through. Great. I've got to be able to appeal this somehow. This is completely unjust. There's got to be something where I can do. I go get a lawyer. They say, yeah, you can appeal to the European Court of Human Rights. However, you have 3 months from the final decision, which was a month ago. So we've got to get on this full speed ahead. So I spent the next 2 months working with this lawyer, getting an appeal together. And this lawyer, he did as good a job as he could. English isn't his first language. He's not a human rights lawyer. I emailed 10 law firms. This is my case in a page. Can you help me? He was one of the only ones that responded, certainly the best looking one. Went with him, did a decent job. And he tells me about the court case in the administrative court. They said they sat around twiddling on their thumbs saying the UK has rule of law. It's perfect. Same thing which was said in the original rejection. But then what they say, which is shocking, is the original rejection did not mention the 24 pages of submission. The court case did. They said, yes, there is this submission. However, it was compiled by him, which means we're going to not admit it to the court. And therefore, this is as best I understand it, trying to remember from the lawyer. And therefore, it's not been admitted to the court. He's submitted no substantial evidence to validate his claims. Therefore, it's his word against the law, against the UK, against the State Agency of Refugee. And the discussion was not on my individual case, but on their misconceptions, preconceived misconceptions about supposed rule of law in the UK. I don't know what they've used to source that. As I say, I've got a lot of evidence to invalidate. I've got 50 stories, including condemnations from organizations that I don't necessarily agree with, like Amnesty International. I can say, I can critique them all I like, but they said, yes, in the UK, there's been a crackdown on human freedoms the past several years. Here's some cases. So I don't know what they've used to do that. And ultimately, this is what's known as discrimination, where they say, we refuse to consider the individual merit of the case due to factors which we perceive. So this was it religion, ethnicity, nationality? Yes, nationality. Was it color? Was it class? It was nationality. They say he's a citizen of the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom is a safe country. Therefore, this could not have occurred. Similar to what the UK said, saying this is what schizotypal symptoms are, I believe. He is this and this, nothing else, no evidence, no symptoms. We're not going to consider him. We're not going to give due process or any consideration. Instead, based on one piece of evidence or one fact. So they say, we've had this false report. Bulgaria say he's a national of the UK. That's the basis of us. And rather than considering reality, they've gone off onto their own narrative, their own propaganda. I was not allowed to counter it. I prepared my case. I was confident to go and appeal it in the court. That was not presented to me, available to me. As such, couldn't do anything. Having spent 2 of the 3 months trying to sort out my European Court of Human Rights case, I then had to go and meet the criteria for residency. It took more than 4 weeks to do that because I had to do something with my accounts in the UK, and I had to go do the accounting and then make up the accounts and file the reports. Missed the 3-month deadline. So I now can't do anything. I've now been denied asylum, deported, back in, voluntary deportation. Again, these agents, they said, look, we like you. We actually want you to be try and get residency when you come back in. We don't want to do that. We're not going to enforce your deportation unless you don't go. Great guy. I want you in this country. Go get yourself residency. Go get yourself sorted. And this is unjust. Nothing we can do at this point. We've got our orders. Go. I've got all of this on record, although I don't know the quality of it. Most of it's in Bulgarian. I don't understand it, but it's all there. And they said, yeah, so that's where I am today, well, that's where I was yesterday, I guess is the right way to say it. That's where I was at the end of 2022. 2021, I've been persecuted. I've been forced to flee my home. I've come to a foreign country. I've been suffering and suffering and suffering. Half my company fell apart. Again, we talk about reputation. My board of directors say, "What's happened? Well, you've disappeared for a month." So look, this is what's happened. I try and not give away too many details, but present, this is what happened, ideological persecution. And they all stayed on to that meeting. And most of them, all but one, resigned. They said, due to personal and professional risk exposure, your company's great, your vision's phenomenal, but I'm unable to continue associating with Elevated. Again, one stayed on. Then the executives resigned as well. Fell into a deep depression, one of the worst times of my life. By the end of the year, started rebuilding that. Was able to get some investment in, build up a prototype. Work with a couple VCs that didn't like their investment terms. Went to Dubai, which was cool. Had an offer for conglomeration, which I may need to get back in touch with. And I was trying to keep my business alive. I've been trying to do that until September of this year, where finally I've just got no more money. I've got no more means to do so. Most people have just resigned due to it not taking off. It's mostly a result of the market conditions have gone. The idea is still there. The concept's great. If you want to get in touch with me, the white paper's up. Phenomenal concept where it takes all your data, and the algorithm, the design is to make you money through engineering, through a very, very smart AI that's not just intelligent, but it's quantitative intelligence, kind of like quantum computing. So that's where I was up until September, where I've now had to leave Elevated in the background, passive dormant it, and commit myself fully to Liberty Rising Group and this diplomatic mission, pursuit of justice.
Now, just to give everyone a rundown, what is Liberty Rising Group? I know we talked about this last episode, but what is Liberty Rising Group? What's the ultimate end goal that you're trying to reach, and how can people help?
The Liberty Rising Group is an organization dedicated to the promotion and defense of individual liberties and freedoms. The work is guided by a clear vision and mission. We're looking for people universally, digitally, online mostly, to get involved, follow along, support in any way you can. So our vision is to transform this existing system of tyranny. We want to transform this concept of liberty from a mere aspiration into the tangible and lived reality for all people. That's ensuring principles of freedom and autonomy are not just theoretical, not just laws, but actualized in our lives and around the world. In our mission statement, and we're doing strategic litigation, we're doing media like this as well. We're doing think pieces on our Substack, and our most active is Telegram, where we post memes, mostly about liberty, freedom, totalitarian governance, highlighting abuses of tyranny, strategic litigation, and education. What it is it's a group, it's an association, it's not for profit. It's designed to build up this platform of resistance against tyranny, uniting for freedom, freedom against tyranny. We want to build a community and amplify and publicize actions, activities related to this vision and mission as set out. So you say, what's the ultimate goal? the ultimate goal is that mission of liberty rising, but the primary objective is this mission, this diplomatic mission. It's my case. So we're taking my case, and rather than me personally reaching out to foreign governments saying, we need your help, here's the human rights, here's a 3-page summary, amazing, three pages. Then here's a massive annex of all the human rights violations, all the laws broken. Here's a big annex of all the evidence. And within that, here's what we need you to do, including diplomatic pressure, legal pressure, refer the case to the International Criminal Court, etc. That's the first objective, and it's my case. It's championing that cause, and it means I'm not reaching out, but the Liberty Rising group is. There's 5 members right now. It's an established NGO. You go look up. It's got an incorporation. It's got a paper trail of here's everything that we're doing. It's public. It's an organization. It's more than an individual. And that was why Liberty Rising Group had to be invented. Plus, I was doing hours and dozens of hours a week on legal drafting, rather than me doing that on my own, supported by nothing. I've now got it as part of an organization and looking to get funding for the organization so that I can just make it through tomorrow.
Understandable.
And through publicizing this, already we've got a first case that we've been able to take on externally. So this individual, I can't give away too many details, but he's had his property confiscated from him, illegally deprived, and so he's in a state of vulnerability. And the Liberty Rising Group and me as the primary advocate here, not a qualified lawyer, but a legal professional and advocate. I've been able to come in, take control of the case, put it in the right direction, and start looking to get justice and the restoration of his property rights. So strategic litigation is for me, and there's going to be, so we're going to all the governments, telling them this story, asking for concrete actions. That aims to have an impact on public policy. We then aim to build this platform of education, media, including engaging memes, as well as, maybe we'll do a podcast. Someone's been asking, and interesting discussions about liberty, freedom, individual rights, etc. And that's what we're doing. We're building this group, creating this resilient community, and we invite you to join along in whatever way you can. Telegram primarily, will be more active on Twitter, Substack, and again, we're expanding.
So, what's other than going to follow you and follow what you're doing? Say if somebody has some skill or some ability, how do they get involved? Do they reach out to you through Telegram? How do they contribute to this if that's something that they want to do?
That's the best way to get in. The best way to get in touch with me is through Telegram. My @ is Elevated Liberty. The group is @Liberty Rising Group. The chat, which you can find through there, but the chat is Liberty Rising Chat. This is an organization, so I guess it is a company. We're a group of people collectively associating for a common cause. But again, the goal is not profit. It's promoting liberty, promoting justice, property rights, freedom. As such, there's a membership structure. There's a formal membership, part of the General Assembly, but then there's the informal membership. If you're in our Telegram group, which is our main, you're part of the Liberty Rising Group. Self-identify, don't do anything in our name that we don't approve. But you're part of us, great. I'm building a website we've got a Substack. I'm building a website. If you want to put together some media, put some content together, whether it be a meme, whether it be a video, an edit, if you want to talk about something, we want to build this platform, grow this platform, develop this platform to invite people in, collaborate on this common cause. And that's the main thing we're looking for. At the same time, if you are able to help the Liberty Rising group, specifically in my case, for my campaign, if you've got some connections, if you've got obviously if you've got some money, if you've got skills, come tell me how you can contribute, and we welcome contribution, so long as it's in line with our principles and values. That's the one thing we want to ensure: the integrity, principles, values. If you align with that value proposition, we invite you in any way possible. Telegram's the best manner, and it would be great to have collaboration, to have more community involvement. It's I one of my favorite things is reading the comment section in the Telegram channel, reposting the what people send in, hearing what they say, the reactions. That's certainly what the least that we're asking for. Well, the middle ground that we're asking for.
So I'm going to ask you, this is something I ask all of my guests this. I find it a fascinating question. But I also love hearing everyone's different answers to it. It's a simple but very impactful, very powerful question. Why does liberty matter in the first place? Why does any of this matter? What is the true importance of liberty? You're muted. There you go.
So one thing about community involvement, I've said, look, here's our principles. I set out a mission statement, executive summary, improving it up. But I say, here's our principles, and we're going to make sure we stick by them, because you're going to call us out if ever we stray from them. And someone said something about objective morality, and I said, there is no objective morality, is what I was told growing up. And I had 2-3 people say, well, you don't believe this. You have core values that fight against the non-aggressive principle. I said, look, I'm not always right. Most of the time, perhaps. That the only way to always be right is to possess the humility to listen to new information, reflect, and be willing to change. So what is so important about liberty is that liberty is righteous. Liberty is right. It is essential for the flourishing of you, therefore of any association, any society, any nation. Liberty is that foundation. It is wrong to violate your rights. Why? It's to do with natural rights. There's natural rights which are objectively virtuous. To violate these rights is wrong, and that's why liberty is so important, both on an individual level, to even have the concept of justice. You need to have natural rights, this objective morality. It's not just a political or a philosophical concept. Liberty is a fundamental aspect of human life and dignity. To say that every individual has inherent dignity, inherent humanity, and I think ultimately we want everyone to realize their potential. And that's not me saying, Jacob, I think you need to do this. I know better than you. Here's what I need you to go do. And if you disobey me, you will be punished. It's, you know what you want to do. Maybe you're not always right, but you know generally what you want to do. And I have no right to say I'm better than you in not in any way, but in the exercise of ownership over your life. No one has the right to say, I own you. Here's what you need to do. And that's liberty.
Hey, I think that's a phenomenal answer. And on that, I think we'll wrap up here. Hang out for a minute, Adam, and we'll get this all wrapped up and slap a bow on it. Everyone else, thank you so much for tuning in. It means the world that you stay here and watch this. We're trying to get messages out to you just like this. Our big tech overlords definitely have made it difficult, and they are doing everything they can to make sure and stop messages like this delivered from me and many, many other people. So everywhere that you can find Adam is in the episode description. I do have to add the Substack. I will make sure to do that. And other than that, make sure and hit the like, subscribe. Make sure and share this out there. I will make sure to include part 1. Go listen to the first part of the story. And if you think that you can, provide any sort of value over to the Liberty Rising group, make sure to do so. We need as many people as possible pushing these ideas, these beliefs, and highlighting people that really want to see a better future for the individual, which in turn will make a brighter future for all of us as a whole. So on that note, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, stay free, my friends.